ברשות קהל הקדוש, everybody welcome. בעזרת השם, הצלחה ברכה, לקרינו דניאל בן מיכאל, שזיווג הגון, רפואה שלמה. גם תברך את יעקב בן אשר, שהשם blessing, רפואה שלמה, bless his kids בעזרת השם. Him and his wife and his family שדו רק מצוות בעזרת השם, יתברך וגמילות חסדים. גם תברך את הכל, everybody is here. So בעזרת השם we have a shiur and a kollel every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Please everybody participate at 98-39 67 Avenue, Regal Park, New York 11374. Please sponsor the shiur. You can call me at 917-335-4763 for Hatzlacha, for Baracha, for Refuah Shlema. Whoever needs to sponsor for the Leilu Nishmat, they're able to do it. בעזרת השם יתברך, לעילוי נשמת, 1000 הבדלות בין המתים לחיים, רומא רחמים הלוי, בן מזל. רוח השם תנחנו בגן עדן הוא וכל השוכבים עמו בכלי הרחמים והסליחות וכן רצון ונאמר אמן. We continue with our Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, Mishnah 4, chapter 4. כתב הרמב"ם, יש דעות אסור לאדם להילחם בכל מידה בינונית. We have a characters and traits, the Rambam says, in הלכות דעות, so we not allowed to act according to the halacha, the way we acting. What does it mean? אלא עליו רחקת מקץ האחד עד קץ האחר. So the Rambam says from one side to another side, which is the character, מידת הגאווה. גאווה, which just means somebody have the gava hofti. Ad ketza echad. Shehi gove lev. A person's heart is very uprising. She'en da derech tova shu adam anav bilvad. Not only good enough that a person is humble, bilvad. Ela shu shafel ruach bayoter. A person has to be very, very humble. We're going to talk about it. Veruach nemucha meod. Lefichach nomar ba Moshe Rabbeinu, aish anav meod. So it says about the Moshe Rabbeinu, Va'ish Moshe anav meod. Moshe Rabbeinu was very humble. V'lomar anav bilvad, not only humble that they say about Moshe Rabbeinu. Achen tzivah chachamenu amru. That's why the Chachamim says in Pirkei Avot, meod meod haveh shafeh ruach mifnei kol ha'adam. A person has to be very, very, very humble in front of people. Amru basotah masechet hei. Masechet sotah in page 5 says following. משתה בננדי עד בגסות רוח, אפילו מקצתה, לכאורה יש מה קצת אמר לנו, תנא, מאוד מאוד. So the Chazal says in the Masechet Sotah, we have to be very, very humble. Have to be humble, little bit humble. But how does the Mishnah says very, very humble? אבל לא עמד מאוד מאוד, אלא הבד רואה בסיום פסוק משנה, משה במשה רבנו, מכל אדם אשר על כל פני אדמה. משה רבנו was very humble in the earth. למה כל כך האריכות בזה? Why the Torah prolongs in the verses that saying that Moshe Rabbeinu was very humble on the earth? הרי כל היודעים אדם על פני האדמה. Everybody knows Moshe Rabbeinu on the earth. He's not in the heavens. על פני רקיע ולא על פני רקיע השמיים. אלא כוונה פסוק, אדם שהוא פני האדמה שייך עייף, שייף ונפיק. He says, what does it mean Moshe Rabbeinu? He's connected to the ground. Connected to the ground, Chazal tell us that is what? Very humble. לוויתס כדרבנו יבתס אומר, רבו יתרה את משה רבנו שענב מאוד מאוד, יותר מאדם שהוא שפר רוח מאוד מאוד. So he says, Chazal says that anava, the humble, is much greater than anything in this world. באמת יש להתבונן בזה בדבר. He says we need to concentrate and pay attention what he says. משה רבנו עליו השנה גדול מאומה. משה רבנו of course great. הנהיג את ישראל במשך 40 שנה. משה רבנו was leader for Jewish people for 40 years. במדבר, in the desert for 40 years. ולא נתנו לו תורה. משה רבנו was given the Torah and the Torah was given to עם ישראל. לנבוא לישראל, משה רבנו was teaching the Jewish nation the Torah. אף על פי כן הנהג בענווה בשפלות. משה רבנו even teaching the Torah was ענווה with the humble, בשפלות, very, very down to the earth, as we said in our language. כיצד ייתכן הדבר? How is it possible, it says. Now, משל למה דבר דומה? What is the parallel is about? אחד שעמד על גג וגבוה, מביט על ההולכים למטה, על הקרקע גבוה בבוז. So it says a person standing on top of the roof and looking everybody down in the earth. הלא כסיל יחשוב, and he start, the person is in the roof, he start disrespecting that the people is in the earth walking. And he start disrespecting. And the Chazal says this type of person is stupid, is not smart enough. He says not because he's tall, the reason he's looking at the people from the top, because he's on top of the roof. ולא לו תאוות התהילה כמו הביט משה רבנו על עצמו, כי גדולות תפירתו נתנו לו מאת השם יתברך כדי ללמוד ישראל תורה ומצוות. Says the Moshe Rabbeinu was given humble and to given such a great strength and a wisdom for him in order to learn, to teach the Jewish people the Torah and mitzvot. לעלתום במסילה לעלו בית אל ומה לו להתגאל להתנשא עליהם. He says Moshe Rabbeinu was always uplifting himself in his spirituality, and he says, how can I be having gava in front of Jewish people? Maseh bar Yonatan Eibshitz. It's a beautiful story over here. Rav Yonatan Eibshitz, שאחד שנבחר לרבו של קהילות, על טונה במחוז וילך למסוע להגיע מחנה קודשו. Rav Yonatan Eibshitz, they were looking in one Bet Knesset, one Bet HaMidrash, a rabbi, a community rabbi. So Rav Yonatan Eibshitz got the job as community rabbi. So he was traveling to the place where they invite him to be a rabbi for that community. ועיקר מקראו מגיע בערב יום כיפור לעירייה אחד הסמוכה לקודש קודשים על טונה. So he came to one of the cities. There was a Jewish community, Rav Yonatan Eibshitz. He was in a day before Yom Kippur. והחליט לשבת שם ביום כיפור. So he cannot be traveling because of Yom Kippur. He wanted to stay in that city, in a Jewish community, in Yom Kippur. בערב יום כיפור לקח את המחזור בידו וילך לבית כנסת. In the afternoon of the Yom Kippur, time of the mincha, he comes to the Bet HaKnesset, Rav Yonatan Eibshitz, and davening, praying. והתפלל מנחה נזדמן לו עמד בתפילה. He started praying mincha, and next to him some old guys standing, also praying mincha. קצת בקורם, but he was praying, the old guy, a little bit in a loud voice, next to Rav Yonatan Eibshitz. ירגיע בסוף תפילה על חד, and you know, in the end of the mincha, which is in Erev Yom Kippur, which is the day before the Yom Kippur, we daven the Al Ched. Al Ched, Rabbi Nissim Gaon, he puts according to the alphabet, which is according to alphabetic order, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, he says Al Ched. So this old guy standing next to Rav Yonatan Eibshitz, and he says, Al Ched, I made a mistake. Okay. ויתרגם כל פסקי בלשון גרמנית. Every little detail of the sin in the Rav Nissim Gaon that's in the end of the Siddur of the Mincha, he was translating to his own language, which is German language. ואומר הכל בבכיות דמעות השליש. He says the whole prayer with such tears, shed tears like a little child. בסוף יגיע אלוקי נוצר שלא נוצרת אני אינו כדאי. He says, you created me, Hashem, but I'm not supposed to be created. Afar ani b'chayai, says, I'm a dust while I'm living. V'akar b'chomer b'mititi. Definitely after my death, I'm nothing. Hari ani lefanecha kekli malei busha uchlima. He says, I'm a vessel full of embarrassing in front of Hashem. V'az agia bechi, then he started crying. This old guy next to Rav Yonatan Eibshitz. V'orid kenachal dime'ah. He started shedding tears like a river of the sea. רבנו יונתן יתרגש בתפילה הזאת שאמרה התרגשות רבה, שסיים תפילה מנחה. Rav Yonatan Eibshitz himself even have the inspiration from this old guy that is next to him saying al chet, which just means the sin that he caused by his actions during the whole year was passed by. שאל השמע של רבנו יונתן, איפה רוצה לשבת בשבת בבית כנסת, לשבת בבית כנסת ביום הכיפורים? He's asking Rav Yonatan Eibshitz, where do you want to sit in a Bet Knesset? Who you want to sit to next to? בקש להשיב על ידי זקן אשר שיש הזה. He says, sit me next to that old guy that was praying the mincha with the tears. שאולי ואני גם מונחים ממנו להתפלל להתגרשות, להתרגשות. He says, maybe Rav Yonatan Eibshitz says, maybe I also able to daven with the kavana and proper feeling that I have. כך היה תפילה ערבית שחרית של יום כיפור. Aravid was davening with a prayer, with this next to the old guy. What did he start doing? Start tears, crying. Shacharit is the same thing. When he came to the reading of the Torah and the Shacharit of the Yom Kippur, there's an aliyah in the Torah Yom Kippur, 6 people supposed to be go for aliyah for Sefer Torah. The Gabbai brought already 4 aliyot to the Sefer Torah. Then this Gabbai comes in and he says to this old guy, Bachowet, please, you're going to be in a 5th aliyah that you're going to go. He was so disrespectful, this old guy. How come you didn't give me the 3rd aliyah and the 4th aliyah? They are more respectful. This old guy, he stands on his feet and he starts looking at the Gabbai. He starts looking where this Gabbai is. He starts analyzing this Gabbai, this old guy that's daven mincha with the tears, unbelievable. Shacharit, Aravit, Shacharit, then reading the Torah. So he started checking him out from the rosh, from the head until the toes. He says, this old guy to the Gabbai, he says, you're stupid guy, stupid. You give in to the guy 3rd aliyah. And the 4th aliyah you give to somebody else. He says, all these people, they don't even come in a foot on my foot. He says, they don't even come close to me. In my chokhmah, in my wisdom and knowledge. And you're giving me 5th aliyah. He says, who put you Gabbai in this Bet Knesset? And he says, go to your house, sit in your house. He starts screaming, publicly disrespecting this Gabbai, this old guy. Rabbi Yonatan don't understand. Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz don't understand what's happening with this guy. That's supposed to be daven. Even Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz himself have a desire to daven like he prays. But I heard you, Rav Yonatan Eibshitz says, I heard you said, I'm a dust of the earth while I'm living. He says, if I'm a dust while I'm living, of course when I'm passed away, I'm nothing. Don't you sit in front of Hashem, I'm a vessel full of embarrassing in front of you, Hashem? Because he told you you're going to go on the 5th aliyah in the Sefer Torah. The Kriyat Torah was reading. Once the tefillah, the prayer of the Musaf finished, then you have a break from the Musaf to Mincha, you have a break. Now you have a break. Rav Yonatan Eibshitz one comes out to this old guy. Rav Yonatan Eibshitz says, how come you put so much pressure in the community right now we're in, and especially in Yom Kippur? You disrespected the Gabbai publicly. He says, how can you say in front of Hashem, I'm like a vessel full of nothing. Busha v'chlima is disrespect to me. He says in front of Hashem. אמנם רבים אומרים כן, לא שמיד לב, על מה מוצאים מפיהם וביתים בלשונם. אתה תרגמת. He says, a lot of people don't know what it says in a prayer, especially when it comes, I sin in the Lashon Hara, I sin in stealing, I sin in making kas, which is anger, gahava, hofti. And he says, you translated every single word in a prayer and you were crying like there was no tomorrow. תרגמת כל עמידת תפילה בגרמנית. You translate the whole prayer, especially al chet, you transfer everything to the language or German language. התרגשות רבה. And you felt it, and you were crying. עליך לא שייך לומר כן. He says, it does not talk about you, that somebody does not what he says in a prayer, and he has this type of התנהגות, type of behavior, so not supposed to be done. ועיין אותו השיש לאומר, תמהני עלי שאלת כבודו. He says, I'm surprised, כבוד הגאון, Rav Yonatan Eibshitz asking me this question. הלא שהתבארתי בתפילה. He says, yes, I spoke in a prayer. עם הקדוש ברוך הוא דיברתי. He says, I spoke in a prayer with Hashem. שכן הנוסח להתחיל אלוקיי עד שלא נוצרת אני אינו כדאי. That's the prayer that we say. עמדתי לפני השם יתברך מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. He says, I'm standing in with the kings of all the kings. מה אני מה חיי? He says, who am I? Who is my life? לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא עפר אני בחיי. He says, in front of Hashem, I'm a dust. After I passed away, I'm nothing even. הנני ככלי מלא בושה וכלימה. He says, I'm a vessel full of embarrassment. לא כן מפני גבאי הדיוט שלא יגיע לקורסלי בחוכמה בבניין. He says, we're not talking about this גבאי. In front of Hashem, that's what I said. But in front of the גבאי, he says, he does not even come close to my feet. In my knowledge and understanding. שלא היה לה לתת לי רק עלייה חמישית. It's supposed to be not give me fifth עלייה. אז אמר רבנו יהונתן, אתה הבנת מה שאמרו חז"ל? You know it says, you understand what the Chazal says in Masechet Chulin, in page 89, גדול מה שנאמר במשה רבנו יותר מה שנאמר באברהם אבינו. He says, in whatever it says about Moshe Rabbeinu, it's much greater than Avraham Avinu. That's what it says in Masechet Chulin, that Moshe Rabbeinu is greater than Avraham Avinu. How is it possible? That's what it says in Masechet Chulin. Avraham amar v'anochi afar ve'efer. Avraham Avinu said, I'm a earth to the dust. That's what Avraham Avinu said. Alesh bo mash al kol hapanim. A dust or earth, you could grow something. From the ashes, you can't grow nothing. Ve'elu Moshe Rabbeinu amar v'anachnu ma. Moshe Rabbeinu says, who we are. Who we are. דבק ירגע דיומה, שאין בו ממש פירוש ירגע דיומה שיש ערובה באמצע החדר, שמזורח דרך ערובה נראה בבית כאין עמוד רוכשים שם ספולת נסרים, אך שבאים למשש אותם בידם נוכחים שאין בהם ממש כלל. He says, take a gutters from the roof. What protects the whole house not to be flooded with the rain is the gutters. He says, who protecting the gutters? I'm going to show it to you. He says, what's the difference between earth and a dust? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm nothing. He says, two of them does not compare to each other. Two of them, not. He says, back then, Avraham Avinu spoke in front of Hashem. He says, of course, in front of Hashem, everything is a dust, is a earth, and a efer, ashes. אבל משה רבנו לצאן מרעיתו ותלמידיו. Moshe Rabbeinu is a tzon, is a shepherd. He's the Talmid of Avraham Avinu. He's the student of Avraham Avinu. Who is Moshe Rabbeinu? ואנחנו מה? Moshe Rabbeinu says, who we are. השפיל עצמו לפני תלמידיו. He, in front of the Talmud of Avraham Avinu, which is Moshe Rabbeinu was the Talmud of Avraham Avinu. Student. וזה רובתא יתרה. שחלילה אצל אברהם היה כמו מנהג הזקן השיש הזה, אלא מה שנאמר במקרה. נהיה הולדתי דבר אליי, אלי הקדוש ברוך הוא, ואילו משה רבנו היה עניו מתדונן, שאלו תלמידים. Says Avraham Avinu, God forbid we don't compare that old guy to the Avraham Avinu. We compare Moshe Rabbeinu is the student of Avraham Avinu. הגדולי הדור גאוני ישראל נשתבחו במידת ענווה שלהם. גדולי העולם, the giants of our generation, previous generation, they were very praiseworthy of how much anava, humble they had upon themselves. There was a rabbi called Huda Mishulash. Rabbi Akiva Iger v'chatam sofer. Rabbi Akiva Iger was a Chatam Sofer when the Gedolim lived a couple hundred years ago. Gaon Rabbi Daniel Prostit חיבר בית דינו של גאון רבי משה סופר בעל החתם סופר. הציע שידוך בזיווג שני של ביתו הגאון רבי עקיבא, אינו גאון רבי איגר במשה סופר. He says, following, הגאון רבי עקיבא איגר לגאון רבי משה סופר. רבי עקיבא איגר, he did a שידוך with חתם סופר. אוקיי? וגאון משה סופר לא הכיר בשבחתו של המדוברת. He says he did not know who was רבי עקיבא איגר. He did not. שלח שאלת גאון רבי עקיבא איגר להודיע מה טבע. גאון רבי עקיבא איגר השיב לו בכתבה דברי שבח ותהילה. He says, how is this lady, the girl that I'm going to get in the future, get married with her? Says, every good character and traits you find, you're going to find in this girl. She have yirat shamayim batachlit. She have a fear of Hashem in the bottom line of it. Kalana ava chasuda. She's beautiful and she's also modest. Not only this, she loves the Torah. Maybe Rabbi Akiva Iger writes to Chatam Sofer and he says following. Maybe, dear Gaon, Kvod Harav, a dear rabbi, maybe it says your soul is so much in the Torah, maybe you don't want to get married. So it says, Lemalot achar shemamru b'psachim. Masechet Pesachim says following, in page 49. Leolam yemkor adam ma sheyesh lo ve'yisa b'eto letalmid chacham. Chazal says, a person should sell everything and get marry his daughter to the Talmid Chacham. V'ani ba'onati rabim lo igati likriyat Talmid Chacham. Rabbi Akiva Iger says, I did not even come to the level of the Talmid Chacham. Okay? ועל מכתב השיב רבי משה סופר דברי כבוד וגאונו נגע על המעלות ביתו נאמן עלי כמאה עדים. He says, the daughter I'm going to give you is like 100 witnesses that it says everything about her the truth. מה אמרו חז"ל לעולם למכור אדם? Chazal says you should sell everything and should give your daughter to the תלמיד חכם. והסיב בטוב תלמיד חכם אינו מסופק להגיד תקלה לתלמיד חכם ואני אינו רואה להיות חתנו. He says, I'm not even worthy to be your chatan. Chatam Sofer says. Sov dawar gawar Daniel, Rabbi Daniel, prostit, tzlich leshechnei shnei gaonim, להסיע ביתו תלמיד חכם ותלמיד חכם וזה נראה ורק קדוש. He says, Rabbi Daniel says, between Chatam Sofer, Rabbi Akiva Iger, says, make the shidduch, and by Ezrat Hashem, you're going to have generation that's up generation that becoming holy. מסופר על חסיד אחד שדרכו בקודש הייתה לכבד כל אדם. One חסיד, he was respecting each person and each individual. בין גדול ממנו, בין קטן ממנו. Whoever is bigger than him, greater than him, or somebody in the knowledge or wisdom, somebody is below him. והיה אומר הלא אותו שגדולו ממני, אין מסופק, אין ספק שעשית מצווה בחייו יותר ממני. What he used to say, the older guys he used to look, he used to say, this older guy did more mitzvot than me. That means I have to respect him because he did more mitzvot than me. Most of the times, in our times, I think it's all the time, most of the times the more people respect is whoever have money. Have money, that's the respect we have. Somebody does not have shalom has money, we don't respect them. Okay, Talmid Chacham, yes, very good. Everything is great. But when we see somebody is in a greater position, in a money-wise, it could be not Talmid Chacham. We right away praising him. But the Chazal says over here, in order for us to look at it with the kaf zchut, with the merit of the benefit of doubt, we need to look at the older person, he did more mitzvot than me. Because a person only looks at it how much the other person is missing. He's not looking how much this person is much greater than me. He's always looking how much lesser than me. He says there's older guys, he put more tzitzit, more time than me, more tiflin, he did more mitzvot. Berech mea barachot, he did 100 blessings a day. Lomed Torah, learns Torah. ועוד, ואותו קטן ממני, what about somebody who's younger than me? הרי הבנתו מעוטים משלי. He says, he's very humble than me. Why? Because he's little. He does not have what to show off. ואותו קטן שקטן המעטי שלי, וכן המכבד אותו כל האדם. That's why he says, I respect each person. זה דרכו מנהג בענווה. He says, what is it considered ענווה? Humble. Respecting small, so respecting big. That's considered humble. What means big, what means small? Not size-wise. Respecting older people, because they did more mitzvot, they learned more Torah. Respecting young people or children, they don't have a gava. So what is the greater than me? They're both greater than me. וזה דרכו שהיא מנהג בענווה. And this is considered humble. מחפש תמיד את מעלתו של חברו. We're all the time looking how much our friend is greater than me. ולא את החסרונותיו, not how much he's missing. וגם רבי לוי יצחק מברדיצ'וב היה רגיל לומר. רבי יצחק לוי מברדיצ'וב says all the time used to say, כי אדם נברא עם שתי עיניים. A person was born with the two eyes. כדי באחד להסתכל על חסרונות שלו. When one eye, he needs to look at how much he's still missing to work for Hashem. בשנייה מעלתו של חברו. In the second eyes, he needs to look how much great his friend is. In one eye, he's looking how much he needs to grow. In second eye, he needs to look how much great his friend is. אך בני אדם נוהגים להפך. But the people, humanity is opposite. בעין אחד מסתכלים מעלותיכם שלהם. In one eye, they look at how much great they are. בשנייה החסרונות של חבריכם. In the second eye, they look at how much they're missing of the friend. הוא לא יהיה כדוגמת הגמל, שאינו רואה את גבות חברו. אינו ידע שהוא נושא גבנת על גבו. He says, don't be like a gamal. Don't be like a camel. Why camel? Camel does not look his hatchback. And he says, look at the hatchback that he has. But he does not know he has the hatchback himself in the back. That's what the gamal is. That's what the camel is. מאוד מאוד הווה שפל רוח. Chazal says very, very humble. רבי מרדכי מצ'רנוביל שבקר בכמה ערים וחלקו לו כבוד גדול. רבי מרדכי מצ'רנוביל, he used to travel from city to city, spread the Torah of Hashem. They used to give a lot of kavod to him, a lot of respect. המונים רבים הלכו אחרי מרכבתו. Not only that, when he left the city, people used to go after his horse carriage. אמרו לקרוביו כדי שלא תזנוח דעתי עליי, שאני מוטל מת. He says, in order for me to not have to hofti, גאווה, says I'm like a dead person. כל אלו בעלו ללבבתות ממקומים מנוחתי. He says, all these people coming and escort me from one city to another, you know what they're doing, Rabbi Nisim? Why they escort me? They're escorting me to my death. That's what he's saying. Okay? רבי חיים מצאן שביקר בעיר, תורנוב קדמו אנשיהם תורנוב כבוד מלכים. Rabbi Chaim Mitzansk, he used to travel to city. They used to give him kavod, like they give the kavod for the king. ישוב רבי חיים מרכבו הוא מוקף המונים וריעים לכבודו. Everybody is gowned around his carriage, horse carriage, right? Horse carriage. And everybody is what? Surrounding him. פניו זועפים ותוחים פנה לבני רבי יחזקאל. He goes to Rabbeinu Chaim Mitzansk. He goes to Rabbi's, next to him sitting his son, Rabbi יחזקאל. ואמר ידע אתה בני, מצבי אתה דומה לגנרל שסרח. He says, I look like a general that I'm no more general. Stinky general, that's what he says. העמדיהו למשפט. He says, they put me to the judgment. פסקו דינו שלול ממנו את דרגתו טוב. He says, they made in a judgment that in a general, I'm not going to be no more general. הוא מעכשיו חייל טורפי פשוט. יצא גנרל מבית המשפט. He said, the general comes out from the courthouse. והחיילים בחוץ לא ידעו עדיין פסק דין באומה. He says, the soldiers still does not know I'm no more general. אז זקיפה ביראת הכבוד והצידה לפניו כי יהודה גנרל מה כאבא לו הצדה הזאת. He says, whatever the kavod they give it to me, they don't even know who I am, which just means nothing. Shemo shel Gaon Rabbi Menachem Mendel Milubavitch. Who knows Rabbi Menachem Mendel? Halach lefanav shu Gaon gadol b'shavu poskim. He was very known, poskim, Shas, Gemara. ואז הזדמן לה לילי פרנסי קהילות וילנה, מתנגדים לבוא לעיר וילנה, למסור שם שיעורים בהלכה. They said, can you come to the city of the Vilna and give us the halacha lesson in the halacha? הגיע לשם לנחל כבוד רב על ידי שיעורי הנפלאים. They give him a big respect. באנו שילבו אותו כתב המכתב לאמא רבנית. He writes, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Milubavitch, he writes to his mother. אבא נוכל כבוד הרב, אב בעיר המנגדים, ואני נהנה מאוד. Abba, he says, to the father, he's giving big kavod, respect. כאשר שב גאון לביתו נתקל בכתב של בנו. קרא את בנו להתחיל נזוב בו, שאל הרבנית, מה חוטא? מה פושע אתה נוזב כשהוא קשות? הרבי מנחם מנדל, תמי נפשך כמים על כבוד שלא מגיע לי. Rav Menachem Mendel says, they're giving me a kavod, that the kavod does not even need to come to me, which just means the respect. Most of the people have and a lot, and more in our times, why a person goes to depression, goes to the anxiety. What's the reason? Because they didn't give him enough respect. So what he does, he goes home, he's don't feel good. Somebody disrespected him, said words not supposed to be said. How can he say about me? So most of the times what happens, of course we're not angels and we're not stones. We are humans. We have feelings. How are we supposed to be control these feelings? How are we supposed to be controlled? You have people, many type of people, right? There's one thing guys, you want Trump, right? Trump won 2024, right? But he says, I have a lot of friends. They're rich, they're billionaires. But some of them don't make it, he says, because they take it everything too personal. How many accusations he had, 2 assassinations he had, how many lawsuits he had. You're going to say with his money, of course that's going to be the same thing. A lot of people have money, they're not in the same position as him. Accusation from 20, 30 years ago, right? Whether it's right, whether it's wrong. The guy gets shot, then he raises his hand. What do you learn? With his kavod, he should not be in a courthouse. He's sitting like a courthouse in a courthouse like a criminal, like any other criminal that you catch in the street. But that doesn't give up. He doesn't give up. So that's what we can learn. From the guy, don't give up. Oh, if I would have his money, yeah. With his money and his kavod, look where he's end up. Where the crackheads are gonna go in the same courthouse, that's where the future president is sitting. So what kind of disrespect is this for him? He would have been humiliated, he would have closed in a room and he would start crying. But he does the opposite. He says, I'm not breaking. It's unbreakable. Why? Because he working on his what? On his midot. So from here we also see from the Hazal how much we have to work on our midot in our, that people does not give us respect that we're supposed to be deserve, or we must deserve, amongst family, amongst friends, amongst members, is all the time going to happen. So either we're going to feel it, or we're not going to feel it. But we're not stone, we're not angels. When we need to work on ourselves, where we don't have to feel anything. And that's how we're able to grow. But if you're going to feel every little word like it's a bow and arrow and shooting, a person is going to break. Maaseh Rabbi Israel, Rabbo shel Lublin. Rabbi Israel was the rabbi of the Lublin. Shaya mitnaged lechasidut. He was going against the Chasidut, the stream of the Baal Shem Tov, Lubavitchi. Okay, he was going against it. Pam pana lechazon milublin. Then he came to the Chozeh milublin. V'kantar badvarim, and he said not proper stuff. Hare torati adifa mitorato. He says, my Torah is much better than the Torah of the Chasidut. Madu anashim nizarim elav v'lo elai. Why people are so careful with him, not with me? תשוב חזה, מה יעשה? נגד רצון הם באים. He says, what can I do? They come against my will. אמר לו רבי ישראל, עצתי ביומה, תפגרה יעלה על בימה, ויספר לחסידים שהם בה כלום. He says, I'm going to go to the bima, I'm going to go to the, over here, to the pole, and I'm going to say, the Hasidut is nothing. ולא תורה ולא חוכמה, there's no Torah and there's no knowledge and wisdom. וישמע חסידים ויחדו מליבו. They heard the Hasidim. From one ear came out, the other ear went in. From one ear went in, the other came out. עשה חוזה בדבריו, והנה להתעורר חסידים מדבריו של החוזה. All the Hasidim said, what's the problem? חילו נאור עליו יותר, וחזר פגש רבנו עזרא את החוזה, וחוזה סח לו את השאירה. רבנו, חוזה מלובלין, רבי יחזקאל, they meet each other. ושוב לה על הבימה, והחרישו למדן אדם וגדול. He says, רבי יחזקאל, he's a very giant person, and he's a learner. ואז יוכיח חסידים שגם ענב אין בו. The Hasidim says, this rabbi does not have anava, humble. ויחדו למסור אליו, וישוב חוזה, זאת לא אוכל. חכם אינו, למדן אינו, אבל גם שקרן אינני. He says, okay, he's not a chacham, he's not this, but a liar, not. פעם נסע גם רבי עקיבא איגר לבקר את אמו. One time, and many times, Rabbi Akiva Iger came to visit his mother. בדרך ילכו עבר בעיר ניקשל פורק. ניקשל פורק, he came to the city, רבי עקיבא איגר. שם ביקר את החמרא דאתרא גם רבי מרדכי בונט. He came to visit רבי מרדכי בונט, הוא רבי עקיבא איגר. בונט, שהשתשע בדברי תורה. He used to go very, very so-called crazy in a good way, Rabbi Akiva Iger of the Rabbi Mordechai Bennett of his Torah. מערם לעיר לבני ביתו, ואמר איננו מבין מה הרעש אשר מהרשים בפולים ברוסיה לגאון רבי עקיבא איגר. He says, Rabbi Mordechai Bennett says, I don't understand why people make such a big deal in Poland, in Russia, about Rabbi Akiva Iger. כי דברי אמו לא מצאתי בו סימן גדלותו. He says, when he spoke, I did not hear about him, how great and giant he is. באמת גם רבי עקיבא איגר הסתיר פניו. But רבי עקיבא איגר, he hid every bigness in the Torah, in the Chokhmah that he has. ולא רצה לראות את כוחו בלימודו. He did not want to show his power and strength in the learning. אולם הגאון רבי מרדכי בנט ביקש מתארח שידורש ביום שבת קודש בבית כנסת. Says, you came to the house, please, we want you to say drasha on Shabbat. To Rabbi Akiva Iger, Rav Mordechai Bennett says to Rabbi Akiva Iger. He did the drasha on Shabbat. גם רבי עקיבא איגר נעתר בקשתו, נמצא דרשתו של רבי עקיבא. כאשר רבי מרדכי בן קושיה אחד אשר בו נסתרה כל דרשת. He says, everything I like, but there's that one question that I have, I don't think you mention it. That's what the Rav Mordechai Bennett said. ואז הפסיק רבי עקיבא איגר את דרשתו. רבי עקיבא איגר then stop his whatever teaching he did publicly on Shabbat. נילי רבים שגאון מרא דאתרא, ניצח את רבי עקיבא איגר. Everybody in the town said, Rabbi Akiva Iger, Rabbi Mordechai Bennett was able to ינצח, which just means win or battle the Divrei Torah versus Rabbi Akiva Iger. That's what they say, everybody in the town. אחר תפילה שביקר רבי עקיבא בביתו של מרנו מרדכי בנט, מורה דאתרא, הביע מרדכי הרתה על פסיק, שהפסיק בקושייה את דרשה של רבי עקיבא, הוכיח לו רבי עקיבא, דברי חיים מקיים, אין בהם נפל ויקש. Rabbi Akiva says, Iger, whatever the question you want, ask me, let me just answer you. קושייה לא קושייה מיידי. He says, whatever the question is not even a question. שתומל מן מרדכי, אמר רבי עקיבא, אם כן, מדוע לא אשיב לו מיד לקיים דברי נראים נכונים? He says, why don't you answer me in a spot when I ask you for Shabbat Kodesh? אשיב לו רבי עקיבא איגר בעונתה צדקתו. רבי עקיבא איגר was so humble. הלא מר מרא דאתרא הוא חיים לכבודו לפני צאן מעריתו. He says, you're rabbi of the community. Everybody knows you. People following you. Why should I disrespect you and answer you publicly? Okay, that's what he says. Ela ani korech notel lelun. Oh, I'm here is one day here. I'm a visitor. Rabbi Akiva Iger says, Hayom ani kan, machar ani nosel el darchai. Today I'm here, tomorrow I'm going to my path. Noach li yoter lirod ki menotzeach. It's better for me to look that you're the win the battle instead of me. שיהיה מנצח את כבוד מראה דעתה, אבל גאון רבי מרדכי יוסיף מיד את כל העם את בית הכנסת. Rav Mordechai again says everybody in the בית כנסת. Everybody. סיפר להם את כל העניין. Rav Mordechai Bennett said everything about Rabbi Akiva again. זאת צדקה, צדק את הגאון, יסיים עתה, אני רואה כי צדקו אלו מפילים את הגדול תורתו שבה. He says he's one of the biggest tzaddik that I met. Rabbi Mordechai Bennett says. גם עתה נוכחתי בדברי צדקתו וקדושתו. ברור לי שכוונה מיוחד לא רוצה לראות כוחו תורה כשבוא אליי בבקרני. Says, of course, when he came to me remember I said to him, when I met him, why his name is going so great? Everybody talks about him in Poland, in Russia. Why is everybody talking about him? And I made a mistake, he says. Oh, he came, he did not want to show his bigness because he's come and visiting us. ויצא בזה מעשה מסביר אחד של התלמידי חכמים, בתוכם רבי יצחק בלעזר. נזדמן שם גאון מבריס רבי יוסף בר סולובייצ'יק. He says, one of the תלמידי חכמים, Rav Yitzchak Blazer, meeting with the מבריסקי רב, Rav Yossi bar Soloveitchik. Rabbi Yossi bar, כשהיה שם קושייה עצומה, Rav Yossi, which is Brisky Rav, is asking a question. מסבב התחילו מפלפלים בקושייתו. Answering questions, answering. זה מתרץ וזה דוחה. He's answering. He says, I don't like your answer. He's then answering. He says, I don't like your answer. כל אחד מראה את כוחו בחריפות בקיאות. Each תלמיד חכם shows how much knowledge he knows. Rabbi Yitzchak Yoshev, Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer sits and don't answer anything. They're going back and forth. כך תירץ רבי יוסי את קושייתו. Rabbi Yossi מבריסק, that's the way he said it. That's the way. Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer just sitting. בחוכמה רבה קריאת השם. Sitting and just listening. ועוד פעם התחילו כל המסובים מתפללים. It's going back and forth. Rabbi Yossi bא. Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer יושב ושתק. Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer does not say anything. כי אילם לא פתח פיו. It's like that mute person cannot even speak. תאמר רבי יוסי בא ליבו ואמר, רבי יוסי said in his heart, רבי יוסי מבריסק, סולובייצ'יק, זה שאומרים עליו שהוא אדם גדול בתורה, רבי יוסי מבריסק said, this is יצחק בלאזר, he's a big in the Torah, in his heart. Okay. שחוזר רבי יוסי בא לביתו ביקש להביא לפניו את ספר בני יצחק. Rav Yitzchak Blazer, he says, can you give me this Yosef Yitzchak book? Okay. Pre-Yitzchak it's called. אך פתח אותו מצא שם קושיות. He says, whatever the question and answer you're going back and forth, it says in this book. וצריך ראה כמה גדולה ענווה של הגאון רבי יצחק בלאזר. He says, from here we learn how much a person, even is so great, but he stood quiet. Shows anava, which means humble. 2-3 words we know, 2-3 masechet we know. We already become giants ourselves. Anybody asking us question, we already start disturbing, we start answering, and we say, Rabbi, you have a permission, not permission, anything, yeah, just give it to me. גאון מליסה, את החוות דעת, היה אומר, עד שאני בוא לפתח ביתו של גאון רבי עקיבא איגר, אני חושב את עצמי לדנדן, אבל שאני בא אליו, Gaon Melissa says following. I used to go to the Rabbi Akiva Iger by his house. Until his house, I thought I was so genius. When I came to Rabbi Akiva Iger to his house, I thought I was just a student sitting in front of the Rebbe. How much he knew the whole Shas, which is Talmud, and Poskim, which means drawing the halacha. So, the Chazal give us all this dugma'ot, which is examples, from them we have to learn. That's what was, the Divrei Tzadikim was given, from them we have to learn how much we have to be, when to say, how to say it, how much humble, right? We have people all the time, this says halacha, this says halacha. It's okay, listen, you could say it, you could say whatever you want to say. And that happens all the time. So we have to learn from them, from the tzaddikim, how much we have to be humble, and what is considered humble according to the Chachamim. Toda rabba la'akshava. Thank you very much for listening. She'akadosh Baruch Hu ten lanu baracha, tzlacha, briyut, disiyat dishmai, Nisim ben Bechor Baris, Yosef, She'ba'ezrat Hashem get married, Emmanuel, everybody, Ba'ishet Chayil Ba'ezrat Hashem, Parnasa Tova, Refuah Shlema, V'chen Yiratzon V'nomar, Amen.